A Venezuelan national dubbed the migrant influencer is at the center of controversy this morning. He has been using TikTok to coach migrants how to live in the U.S. by taking advantage of laws protecting squatters.
In past videos, the illegal migrant bragged that he came to the United States to vacation and now lives off U.S. taxpayers.
Leonel Moreno, a Venezuelan national referred to as a migrant influencer, has found himself in legal hot water in the United States. The illegal immigrant has just been arrested by ICE. Despite his mocking of the U.S. system, Moreno now begs to stay in the country and whines that he's a victim of persecution. Stick around as we delve into Moreno's disturbing arrest and deportation in just a moment.
In his most recent controversial TikTok video, Moreno is telling his followers to avoid living on the streets in the United States. They can, quote, invade empty homes and live there.
Leonel Moreno from Venezuela crossed into the U.S. illegally back in 2022, but was allowed to stay.
Moreno, who illegally crossed into the U.S. in 2022, gained notoriety for his TikTok videos where he openly mocked American societal norms and laws, specifically encouraging fellow migrants to squat in uninhabited homes as a way to avoid living on the streets.
He also tells his followers that he waits for Americans' hard-earned pension checks to come in every month.
His advice to exploit U.S. laws protecting squatters, combined with a brazen display of what he claimed were the benefits of government assistance programs, quickly caught the attention of federal authorities.
He's come to fame since his social media posts boasting that he's getting loads of government benefits.
Moreno's approach to his life in the U.S. was both brazen and provocative. He flaunted his supposed financial gains from government assistance and social media, making statements such as, "I didn't cross the Rio Grande to work like a slave. I came to the U.S. to mark my territory." His online activities not only spurred viral fame, but also controversy and scrutiny, leading to the closure of his TikTok account, which boasted around 500,000 followers, although his Instagram remained active with over 177,000 followers.
Moreno remains in custody in Ohio.
His arrest by ICE on March 29th, on the outskirts of Columbus, Ohio, came after he failed to comply with check-in requirements set by the Alternatives to Detention program he was placed under upon his illegal entry into the U.S.
An influencer on TikTok appears to be trying to put others on game on how to take over U.S. homes and use squatters' rights.
Moreno was supposed to report to the Enforcement and Removal Operations Office within 60 days of arriving at his intended destination, a condition he neglected, leading to his designation as an absconder by ICE.
Moreno could now face gun charges under the Gun Control Act, which prohibits people on parole from possessing, shipping, transporting, or receiving firearms or ammunition.
Adding to his legal troubles, Moreno is now potentially facing federal firearms charges. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives has been in contact with ICE regarding Moreno, particularly concerning his possession and display of firearms on social media. Although it remains unclear whether Moreno ever purchased a firearm, his flaunting of weapons and his encouragement of illegal activities have raised significant concerns. But Moreno is far from the only migrant arrested and deported. Migrant gang-related crimes are committed left, right, and center in America's biggest cities. Let's take a look at one of the cities facing the most trouble, Chicago. Migrant gang activity.
The Chicago Police Department announcing they've made 25 arrests, recovering illegal narcotics and 9 cars.
Gangs from South America are breaking into multi-million-dollar homes across the country.
Chicago is currently grappling with a wave of crime linked to an influx of migrants, some of whom are reportedly engaging in theft and violent activities shortly after arriving.
Groups of Venezuelan migrants were charged with burglaries in DuPage County.
These individuals, many of whom have traveled from Texas, are allegedly being recruited by local gangs eager to bolster their ranks. The city's safety is under threat as these newcomers are quickly initiated into the world of crime with guidance from established criminals.
Now to an armed robbery in Chicago and a manager held at point.
This morning, a smoke shop on Chicago's northwest side is burglarized overnight.
For example, migrants unfamiliar with the area are purportedly orchestrating robberies in upscale shopping centers, advised by their criminal mentors.
At least 5 people involved, including one person smashing the window while another jumps inside to steal the cash drawer.
The situation has escalated, with 47 migrants detained over a recent span, highlighting the challenges faced by law enforcement in maintaining public safety.
Pushed down and held to her head. Armed robbers target a woman in her backyard with her daughter just steps away.
Police described the scenario as reminiscent of a crime film, where criminal groups offer detailed plans for committing theft, including escape strategies back to urban encampments and shelters. Despite arrests, many are released and seemingly reoffend, exposing potential gaps in the judicial system.
Security video shows the group of 5 suspects breaking into Olivia's Market and quickly rummaging through the store before getting away.
They broke through the glass, they came in and went straight to the registers. We're looking for any cash. Yeah, that's been like their tactic.
Adding complexity, not all involved are engaged in petty crime. Some are accused of participating in more intricate schemes, such as the creation of fraudulent IDs in return for stealing goods.
Migrants looking for fast cash to get a job can wind up as pawns in a criminal operation.
Many of them caught stealing in order to pay for fake IDs to gain employment.
A concerning aspect is the involvement of migrants with prior gang affiliations and connections to international crime networks, raising fears about the scale and variety of criminal activities taking place. Disturbing burglaries.
Attempted home invasion caught on camera, but the unsuspecting homeowner winds up pulling a on his attackers.
In recent times, Chicago has been facing an alarming rise in burglary and related crimes, marking a disturbing trend that is becoming increasingly complex.
Chicago police are searching for the suspects in a string of armed robberies. Police say the suspect responsible for 9 attacks that happened in just 90 minutes.
The city is at a pivotal point, searching for effective measures to address the growing issue of burglaries and crimes associated with migrants.
A migrant from Venezuela is facing charges accused of attacking and women.
These are not random incidents, but part of a larger, more disturbing pattern, including bold home invasions and sophisticated burglaries.
Now to an armed robbery in Chicago and a manager held at
Criminals are using more elaborate and forceful techniques, signaling a shift towards more organized and daring criminal activities.
21-year-old migrant faces charges for a scuffle with a police officer.
Adding to the city's woes are the confrontations between suspects and the police, which go beyond mere physical skirmishes. They represent the larger battle against rising crime rates that the city is currently facing.
Chicago police pieced together clip after clip, showing a group of men armed with rifles, handguns, and even a long knife.
The increasing reports of break-ins and the pervasive fear of being the next target have sparked widespread concern. This situation has led to heated discussions about the city's governance, particularly the role of Mayor Brandon Johnson in handling this escalating crisis.
2 people, including the teenager, and 7 others hurt.
One notable incident involves a Venezuelan migrant alleged to be linked to a cartel who was charged following a drive-by, further heightening community concerns. The public's frustration is palpable, with criticism directed at both local and national leaders, as well as the migrants implicated in these crimes. This unrest has sparked protests against the migrants, reflecting the city's tense atmosphere and the broader implications for Chicago's security and social cohesion. Public outrage.
Nobody asked us, nobody told us. We have more than a few thousand people who signed a signature here who said no. We said no.
Chicago's atmosphere is tense for a very compelling reason. The city's residents are expressing their frustration, focusing their anger on Mayor Brandon Johnson and the Biden administration.
When do citizens of the United States of America come first?
Their dissatisfaction stems from a sense that migrants are being given priority, with funds being allocated to them that could otherwise support the city's essential public services.
Brighton Park neighbors have been protesting this possible migrant tent camp location for hours now.
The core of the unrest is the increasing concern for safety, an essential element of community life. Many Chicagoans feel their sense of security dwindling, linking this unease to the recent influx of migrants, particularly noting a significant presence of men with potential criminal histories. This, they believe, threatens the well-being of the city's residents.
These South and West Side homeowners are angry.
Protect West Housing in Chicago.
They believe the city has overextended itself and should be putting the tens of millions of dollars earmarked for migrants into Chicago's most vulnerable neighborhoods.
But the South Side has been under-resourced, underfunded for years, for decades. We have schools that need to be reopened.
The debate extends to the city's financial decisions, how tax dollars are spent, and the areas in which they are notably lacking. There's a growing feeling among the public that their hard-earned money is not being utilized as intended, leading to calls for a reassessment of the city's priorities and decision-making processes.
Move over, kids. Migrants are taking over your neighborhood football field in Chicago in favor of a new shelter for illegal immigrants, and residents are outraged.
Education, crucial for the development of any thriving community, is at the heart of the controversy. The use of educational facilities to house migrants has drawn significant criticism, with many arguing that schools should focus on educating the youth rather than serving as temporary accommodations.
How about this? Give them all these politicians' addresses and put them in their backyards, in their basements, in their houses.
The unease has even spread to the suburbs, where the possibility of migrants moving into residential areas has triggered a "not in my backyard" sentiment among some. This has led to questions about whether local leaders would welcome such changes in their own neighborhoods. As Chicago continues to receive busloads of migrants, the city faces a critical question. Why is this happening, and what will be the consequences for the future of one of America's most iconic cities? Influx of migrants.
A record number of buses, 36 of them filled with asylum seekers, has arrived in the city since Saturday.
State leaders say they've been told to expect up to 25 buses of migrants each day.
Imagine a fleet of buses, each filled to capacity, rolling into Chicago. This scenario isn't lifted from a movie script. It's the city's current predicament, thrusting it into the national spotlight due to a significant influx of migrants.
9 more buses carrying people arrived in Chicago today. That is the most in one day ever.
Who are these new arrivals? Predominantly men. Their presence is raising both interest and concern. Among them, a considerable number have criminal records, adding complexity to the issue and fueling intense public debate.
7 buses of migrants will arrive in Chicago today. This follows the at least 7 coach buses full of migrants that arrived in Chicago yesterday. In fact, just a few minutes ago, another coach bus full of migrants pulled up right beside us.
Why is Chicago the center of this activity? Its status as a sanctuary city attracts migrants seeking refuge and support. However, this welcoming stance is under examination as the city grapples with the impact on public services, community safety, and overall well-being.
An influx of migrants to New York and other sanctuary cities is testing their already strained social safety nets.
The strategy to send migrants to Chicago, orchestrated by Texas Governor Abbott, is presented as a critique of federal immigration policies.
Joe Biden is responsible for the largest amount of illegal immigration in the history of the United States. And there are deadly consequences because of that.
There's only one reason why this is happening. And that's because Joe Biden has eliminated all of the 4 policies that Donald Trump put in place that led to the lowest illegal border crossings in 40 years.
The immediate effects, though, are palpable, with Chicago facing challenges that test its infrastructure, social fabric, and resolve. The community feels the pressure, with some residents considering moving away due to increased demands on housing, essential services, and public safety. At this crucial moment, Chicago is evaluating how to balance its commitment to being a sanctuary city with the realities of a significant migration wave.
The city of Chicago has impounded a migrant bus for the first time.
As the city anticipates the arrival of more buses, it's at a crossroads, contemplating its future direction. How will these developments affect a city known for its diversity and resilience? Housing challenges.
Things got pretty heated during a protest in Brighton Park this morning. In the last 2 hours, residents showed up with drums, cymbals, and signs, upset over construction for a possible tent location for migrants.
Chicago, bustling and densely populated, is currently grappling with an unprecedented housing crisis, driven by a steady stream of migrants seeking a new life in the Windy City. Unfortunately, the harsh reality is that there simply isn't enough room to accommodate everyone.
And in Chicago, now spilling onto city streets. Right now, 2,300 migrants are living at police departments and airports in that city.
Securing housing for these newcomers has become a Herculean task, marked by astronomical costs, complex logistics, and visible consequences on the city's streets. As winter approaches, a distressing sight becomes increasingly common. Migrants sheltering in fragile tents, braving the bitter cold. Police stations, never intended for such use, are now overrun, serving as makeshift shelters. Schools, too, have been co-opted into emergency housing, sparking intense discussions about educational priorities and the future of Chicago's schools.
How much taxpayer money is being wasted to set up camps and then tear them down?
The spread of tent encampments across sidewalks and parks is a stark symbol of the crisis. These temporary homes not only highlight the severe living conditions, but also reflect the city's broader distress. For residents, the growing tent cities raise alarm over safety and the erosion of life quality. The pressing question now is how Chicago will tackle this escalating housing dilemma, with every every nook and cranny filled and shelters at their limits, the city is in a dire search for answers. As Chicago contends with this acute shortage, it finds itself scrutinized by the nation. How the Windy City will weather this storm is yet to be seen. However, one thing is certain: a challenging road lies ahead in addressing this critical issue. Government response.
I know folks may have questions about my style, but don't question my leadership.
As Chicago faces the challenges brought on by a significant surge in migrants, the focus intensifies on those at the helm, Mayor Brandon Johnson and the Biden administration. The range of opinions on their handling of the situation mirrors the diversity found in Chicago's renowned pizza offerings. Beginning with Mayor Johnson, his leadership is under the microscope amid rising pressures.
After 10 months at the helm of City Hall, Mayor Brandon Johnson is defending his record and a full-page ad in the Sunday paper combating criticism of his progressive agenda.
Critics accuse him of being indecisive and too lenient, possibly leading the city astray. In contrast, his proponents believe he's tactfully managing a complex crisis with both heart and practicality. The Biden administration is caught in a wider debate over immigration policy and its impact on cities like Chicago.
Now to the latest in the migrant crisis. President Biden reportedly considering executive actions that would block migrants from seeking asylum at the border.
Its strategy, mixing support with long-term policy initiatives, often appears detached from the immediate trials facing Chicagoans. Texas Governor Abbott emerges as an unexpected catalyst in this scenario.
Another 78 migrants were brought here, bussed in from Texas, and among them 15 children. This is becoming a regular occurrence. Now New York City is struggling to provide housing for thousands of immigrant families.
His decision to send migrants to sanctuary cities has shaken up the conversation, forcing both city and federal officials to confront the consequences head-on. Amidst this backdrop, the crucial debate on how to effectively address the crisis gains momentum. Opinions diverge on whether the focus should be on tightening border controls or enhancing support systems, with each proposal sparking more debate. As Chicago navigates these turbulent waters, the scrutiny on how its leaders respond is intense. Will their efforts provide the relief that Chicago desperately needs, or will the city find itself overwhelmed by the ongoing challenges? This story is still unfolding. As government strategies take shape, the world watches with keen interest. The decisions made in response to this crisis will undoubtedly shape Chicago's future. The stakes couldn't be higher, and the importance of the next steps cannot be overstated. The question remains, will Chicago find a way through this storm, or will the pressures prove too great? Only time will tell, but the impact of today's decisions will be felt for years to come. National impact.
Thousands of migrants that have made their way into this country have come to New York, putting a strain on some of the city's services.
New numbers in today on how much Chicago has spent on the migrant crisis. In total, nearly $300 million has been spent since October 2022.
As Chicago grapples with a marked increase in migrant arrivals, the repercussions extend far beyond its borders, spotlighting a national dilemma that affects cities from New York to Los Angeles. This escalating crisis not only impacts the vibrant streets of major urban centers, but also prompts a nationwide reflection on policy, compassion, and the very principles that underpin American society.
Big city mayors across the country continue to face a surge in migrant influxes as a number of states in the South along the border are sending migrants to those big metropolitan cities that declared themselves sanctuary cities.
New York City, facing similar challenges, sees its shelters overwhelmed and its civic dialogue intensifying, highlighting a shared struggle that is catapulted to the center of national discourse. The situation poses critical questions for the country at large. It exposes a complex web of issues encompassing immigration policy, the allocation of responsibilities between federal and state authorities, and the capacity of cities to integrate newcomers. This crisis is testing the durability of America's social fabric, the integrity of its values, and its strategy for the future. Critics warn that without a cohesive approach and decisive measures, this scenario could gravely affect urban centers nationwide. They highlight the potential depletion of resources, the burden on public services, and the disruption to community cohesion as significant threats that could undermine the nation's stability and prosperity. Former President Donald Trump has voiced strong criticism, linking the situation to what he perceives as the shortcomings of current immigration policies and governance. He calls for more robust border security and stricter immigration controls, framing the issue as crucial for the nation's security and identity. This unfolding scenario raises several pivotal questions for America. How will it navigate this challenge? What lessons can be gleaned from the experiences of cities like Chicago and New York? And crucially, how will these decisions shape the future of a country renowned for its dedication to providing refuge and opportunity? Thus, the migrant crisis evolves from a local issue to a moment of national reflection and resolve, marking a significant chapter in America's ongoing story, one that unfolds daily in towns and cities across the nation, shaping its collective future.